Robert Mitchell stood in the marble entryway of his penthouse, watching yet another nanny flee through the doorway. That made 7 in 3 months. His twin daughters, Emma and Grace, barely 4 years old, sat on the bottom step of the grand staircase, their matching red floral dresses wrinkled from the day's chaos. "I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell," the nanny stammered, clutching her designer handbag. "I simply cannot. They're just too much for one person." Robert ran his hand through his dark hair, loosening his tie as exhaustion settled over him like a heavy coat. At 38, he'd built a real estate empire from nothing. But he couldn't seem to manage 2 little girls who missed their mother more than words could express. The door clicked shut, and silence filled the vast apartment. Through the floor to ceiling, windows. The city stretched out below them, glittering with evening lights. Robert had given his daughters everything money could buy. The best home, the finest toys, every comfort imaginable. Everything except what they needed most. "Daddy's sorry, girls," he said softly, kneeling beside them. Emma clutched her worn teddy bear tighter, while Grace stared at her shoes. Neither spoke. They rarely did anymore. That night, after tucking the twins into their beds, Robert sat in his study, staring at his phone. His company managed dozens of luxury buildings across the city. Perhaps it was time to look for help in unexpected places. The next evening, as Robert worked late in his home office, he heard humming from the hallway. Stepping out, he found a woman in her mid-40s methodically cleaning the marble floors. Her light brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the building's janitorial uniform. There was something peaceful about the way she worked, a quiet competence that caught his attention. "I'm sorry to disturb you," Robert said. "I don't think we've met. I'm Robert Mitchell." The woman looked up with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. "I know who you are, Mr. Mitchell. I'm Sarah Chen. I usually work the evening shift in this building." "Chen?" Robert tilted his head. "That's... My late husband was Chinese-American," Sarah explained simply. "I kept his name. It reminds me that love doesn't follow the rules we expect it to." There was something in her voice, a depth of understanding that came from weathering life's storms. Robert found himself lingering in the doorway. "I couldn't help but notice," Sarah continued, returning to her work, "that you've had several nannies come and go recently. Building staff talk, you know. No judgment. Raising children alone is the hardest job there is." Robert sighed. The twins. They've been difficult since their mother passed 2 years ago. Nothing I do seems to help. Sarah paused, resting her hand on the mop handle. "Children don't need perfect, Mr. Mitchell. They need present. May I ask, when was the last time you sat on the floor and just played with them? No agenda, no schedule, just being together?" The question hit Robert like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through everything he thought he knew about parenting. I don't know," he admitted. "Sometimes the answers we're looking for are simpler than we think," Sarah said gently. "Though simple doesn't always mean easy." Over the following weeks, Robert found himself timing his late work sessions to coincide with Sarah's cleaning schedule. They would talk about parenting, about loss, about the ways life humbles us all. Sarah had raised her son alone after her husband died in a construction accident 12 years ago. She worked 3 jobs to put him through college, and now he was a teacher in Chicago. "You must miss him," Robert said one evening. "Every day," Sarah replied, her eyes distant. "But that's love, isn't it? Holding on and letting go at the same time." One Friday night, Robert heard crying from the twins' room. Both nannies he'd hired that week had already quit. Exhausted and desperate, he called down to building management. "Is Sarah Chen still on shift?" 20 minutes later, Sarah stood at his door, concern creasing her kind face. "Mr. Mitchell? Is everything all right?" "I know this is highly unusual," Robert began, "but I'm at my wit's end. The girls won't stop crying, and I have an emergency conference call with Tokyo in 15 minutes. Would you? Could you just sit with them? I'll pay you whatever." Sarah held up her hand. Let's not talk about money right now. Let's talk about what those little girls need. She walked past him into the apartment, following the sound of tears. Robert watched from the doorway as Sarah entered the twins' room, settling herself on the floor between their beds. "Hello, Emma. Hello, Grace," she said softly. "My name is Sarah. I heard you were having a hard night." The twins' crying quieted to sniffles. Through the crack in the door, Robert saw Emma clutch her teddy bear tighter, peering at this stranger who spoke so gently. "I lost someone very special, too," Sarah continued, her voice carrying the weight of truth. "My husband. I remember nights when the sadness felt too big to hold inside. Do you girls feel like that sometimes?" Grace, who rarely spoke to anyone, whispered, "We miss our mama." "Of course you do," Sarah said, her eyes glistening. "And you know what? You always will. Missing someone doesn't go away, but it changes. It becomes softer, like a blanket instead of a storm." "Will Daddy stop being sad?" Emma asked, her small voice breaking Robert's heart from across the room. "Your daddy loves you very much," Sarah said. "Sometimes grown-ups don't know how to show their sad and their love at the same time. But he's trying. Can you see that he's trying?" Both girls nodded slowly. "What if," Sarah suggested, "we make a deal? When the sadness feels too big, you tell someone. You tell your daddy, or you tell me, or you whisper it to your teddy bear, but you don't hold it all inside where it gets heavier and heavier. Does that sound like something you could do?" Emma looked at Grace. Grace looked at Emma. Then both girls nodded. Sarah stayed for an hour, telling them gentle stories about her own son, about missing people we love, about how feelings are like weather. They change, and we can learn to weather them together. By the time Robert's conference call ended, both twins were asleep. He found Sarah in the kitchen, washing the girls' dishes from dinner. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know." Sarah dried her hands on a towel. "Mr. Mitchell, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but those girls don't need another employee. They need family. They need someone who shows up not because they're paid to, but because they genuinely care." "Like you did tonight," Robert said quietly. Sarah smiled. "I did it because I remember being where you are. Alone, scared, wondering if I was failing the person who needed me most. Someone showed me kindness then. I'm just passing it forward. Would you consider working for us? As I don't even know what to call it. Not a nanny. A friend?" Sarah studied him for a long moment. "I'll make you a counteroffer. Let me come 3 evenings a week. Not as an employee, but as someone who cares. No uniform, no formality, just someone who shows up. And in return, you work on being present with your daughters. Really present. Can you do that?" Robert felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been locked tight since his wife died. "Yes," he said, "I can try." The transformation didn't happen overnight. Change rarely does. But slowly, steadily, the Mitchell household came back to life. Sarah arrived on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday evenings. She never dressed in her work uniform on those nights. Instead, she came as herself, sometimes in jeans and a comfortable sweater, her hair down, a bag of groceries in her arms. "We're making cookies tonight," she'd announce, and the twins would squeal with delight. Robert learned to leave his work early on those evenings, to sit at the kitchen counter and watch as Sarah taught his daughters to measure flour, to crack eggs, to knead dough with their small hands. She taught them that mistakes were just part of learning, that burned cookies could still be eaten with ice cream, that laughter was the best ingredient. On weekends, Sarah suggested simple outings, not elaborate theme parks or expensive entertainment, but trips to the public library, walks through neighborhood parks, visits to the farmer's market where the twins could pick out fresh fruit. "Childhood isn't about grand gestures," Sarah told Robert one autumn afternoon as they watched Emma and Grace jump in piles of leaves. "It's about small moments strung together like beads on a necklace. Each one matters." Robert found himself telling Sarah things he'd never shared with anyone. His fear that he was failing his daughters, his guilt over his wife's death in a car accident he couldn't prevent, his worry that he'd built a fortune but lost sight of what truly mattered. "You know what I see when I look at you?" Sarah said one evening as they sat on his balcony while the girls played inside. "I see a man who's learning. That's all any of us can do. Learn and try and show up. You're doing that." "Thanks to you," Robert said. "No." Sarah shook her head. "Thanks to love. I just helped you remember it was there." As months passed, the apartment filled with life again. The twins' laughter echoed through halls that had been silent for too long. They began talking more, playing more, showing Robert their drawings and insisting he read bedtime stories in funny voices. One evening in December, as snow fell softly outside, Robert found Sarah teaching the twins to make paper snowflakes at the kitchen table. "Each one is unique," Sarah explained, helping Grace with her scissors. "Just like people. We're all different, and that's what makes the world beautiful. Like you're different from our nannies?" Emma asked with innocent directness. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "The nannies tried to make us be good," Emma said thoughtfully. "You just let us be us." Sarah's eyes met Robert's across the room, and something passed between them, an understanding that went deeper than words. That night, after the twins were in bed and Sarah was preparing to leave, Robert stopped her at the door. "I've been thinking," he said carefully, "about what you said months ago, about family versus employees. Sarah, you've become family to us. The girls love you, He paused, searching for the right words. "I wonder if you'd consider making this permanent. Not as an arrangement or a job, but as more." Sarah's expression softened with something that looked like affection mixed with gentle understanding. "Robert, you're a good man. But let me ask you something. Are you looking for a mother for your daughters? Or are you feeling something more?" The question hung in the air between them. Robert realized he didn't have a clear answer. "I thought so," Sarah said kindly. "Here's what I know about matters of the heart. They can't be rushed, and they can't be confused with gratitude. What we have right now is special. Let's not complicate it by trying to define it." "But what if we just keep showing up?" Sarah suggested. "What if we keep being here for Emma and Grace, and we let whatever happens happen naturally? No pressure, no expectations, just presence." Robert nodded slowly, recognizing the wisdom in her words. "You're right. As usual. Not always," Sarah laughed. "Ask my son about the time I tried to fix his college girlfriend situation. Some lessons we only learn through failure." As winter turned to spring, the rhythm of their unconventional family continued. Sarah remained a steady presence 3 evenings a week. Robert learned to be more present, to turn off his phone during dinner, to sit on the floor and play dolls without checking his watch. One April evening, Sarah arrived to find the apartment unusually quiet. Robert met her at the door with a strange expression. "The girls have something they want to ask you," he said. In the living room, Emma and Grace stood side by side, holding a picture they'd drawn. It showed 4 stick figures, a tall man, 2 small girls, and a woman with kind eyes. "Sarah," Emma began, her voice serious in the way only a young child's can be. "We drew our family." "It's beautiful," Sarah said, "kneeling to their level." "You're in it," Grace added, pointing to the figure with kind eyes, "because you're our family now. Right, Daddy?" Robert stood behind his daughters, his hand on Emma's shoulder. "They're right. However we define it, whatever we call it, you're family to us, Sarah. Not because of any arrangement or expectation, but because that's what you've become. Someone we love, someone we can't imagine our lives without." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "You 3 are family to me, too," she said softly. "The kind you choose, not the kind you're born into. Sometimes that's even stronger." "Does that mean you'll come to Emma's school play?" Grace asked hopefully. "And my dance recital?" Grace chimed in. "And Sunday breakfasts?" Emma added. Sarah looked at the 3 faces watching her with such hope and love. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, from loneliness and loss to this unexpected, beautiful thing they'd created together. "Yes," she said simply.